Hey everybody, I am your host Elad, and today I'm reporting to you from the New York City 2020 Women's March. We're a little bit light on the attendance this year. Let's go talk to some folks, see what's going on. So we are out here today for the 2020 Women's March. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here, what it means for you to be out here?
Yes, my name is Aisha Sekou. I'm the CEO and founder of Street Corner Resources. We're an anti-violence organization funded out of the Office to Prevent Gun Violence by Mayor de Blasio. We're part of the crisis management system. So I'm here as a guest. I was asked to speak, but I'm here really to call to action the women, not just here, but all over the country and then all over the world.
Do you think there's a threat to women in the United States nowadays?
I think that there's a threat to all people who may even be different, not just women, but all people. I think the threat is to our children, and that my call to action is to women to begin to take more time to nurture our children, whether they birth them or not. We're seeing young people at 13 years old, 12 years old, 15, 16, at a time that they should be enjoying their life, committing horrific crimes. We're seeing what they call, as NYPD said, there's an uptick in violent behavior with young people. If we are watching the trend go up, meaning increase, then we are watching our kids go bad. We are just as bad as our children going bad.
I agree with you.
So I call women into action to go back to the day where we took control with all of our children.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I wanted to ask, one of the reasons why the pay gap exists is because women take off from the workplace to have children and raise children. So doing that would increase the pay gap. And we talk a lot about how the pay gap's an issue here. So what do you think? Should we encourage women to have more kids even though the pay gap will increase, or should we encourage them to not get married, have less kids, and then the pay gap would decrease?
Well, I think that we need to encourage women to have the children they want to have. They have a right to have children or not have children. I don't think that should be mandated by the government or anyone. But I do think that women should have the opportunity to be the caretaker, the nurturer, which the woman is, so to have the time to be home, to get home in a timely fashion, not have to work 2 and 3 jobs to take care of her children. Because when the mother is absent from the house, the children will begin to create their own recreation, which is sometimes violent activity, bullying, and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And we will see our prisons get full.
I want to follow up with you and ask, one of the critiques of the Women's March is that it's not inclusive to all women and it's just become an anti-Trump march. How would you respond to that critique? And is this march inclusive to women who may be pro-life or women who may support Trump?
Well, I think that this
or even Jewish women.
I think that this march is inclusive. I looked at the crowd just so that I could see that for myself.
Would pro-life women be welcome here?
I think all women are welcome. All women. I didn't hear any restriction about who can come and who can't come.
We're talking a lot about abortion, though, and there are a lot of Trump signs, though, so that's why I asked the question.
Yeah, that's okay. Those are the people who showed up to express themselves in the way that they choose. Yeah. And I think one of the good things about the Women's March is that it's open to all women. Whatever side, whatever issue is yours, whatever ideology you want to have, you can show up here, and there's no prejudice where that is concerned.
I had one last question for you. Last year, the organizers were included Tamika, Mallory, and Sarsour. There were charges of anti-Semitism against them, and they were forced to step down. Do you think they were bad representatives for the Women's March, or do you think it was wrong for them to step down?
No, I know both of them.
Sure.
Right, I know both of them. So I can't say I wasn't involved on that level. I don't really know every single thing
Was
that
it a good
happened.
move for them to step down?
I can't say. I don't have enough information.
But there were charges. There were articles about these ladies. This was all the way.
I didn't read it all.
Yeah, but this is the Women's March.
I didn't read it all.
But you're one of the speakers here. You don't know about the former organizers?
I know not enough to comment on your question.
Sure.
And
was it a bad thing for them to force you? We can't answer that.
You know, I'd rather talk about some more important things, like how many women were killed by the police in the last year.
Did they kill more women than they did men?
No, they haven't.
Okay.
But if we leave that undealt with, it will be.
For sure.
Because when the respect for the woman decreases in this society, we have a problem.
You know, so I want one last question. I promise this is the last one. A lot of women talk about having the ability to defend themselves. So women are obviously victims of sexual assault and rape often. Do you think women should have the ability to have firearms, and we should encourage women to carry firearms to protect themselves against them?
I do anti-violence.
Well, how are you going to tell us? How are you going to tell a criminal who's trying to rape somebody to be nonviolent? So how could we have women defend themselves? Is that a good thing?
Well, guns are not necessarily the defense for rape.
In the right hands, they could be.
My daughter's a 3rd-degree black belt. Awesome. Try to do something to her.
I would never.
She's trained. Awesome. So what I'm telling you is I don't support having guns. Mm-hmm. I do anti-violence work. I'm an anti-violence activist.
Sure.
Right. So I don't support the NRA. I don't support people having guns. I don't support guns being sold in poor communities to people that we have no way to track those guns.
A lot of people say gun control is racist, and that a lot of gun control is trying to disenfranchise like people of color, brown people, black people from getting firearms.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. We need to keep guns out of communities, period. Whether it's black, white, Iowa, New York, Chicago, Detroit, we have to keep guns out of the community. I got to get my...
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a good one. So we're out here today at the Women's March 2020. Yes. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here, what it means for you to be out here?
For me, it's more about women's rights and freeing women minds and bodies and desexualization of women parts. So we have another sign for free the nipple. So we want the nipple to be equal to male, but also for women to be equal at work, at home. So, there is no hierarchy in society.
Yeah. I want to ask, many people, many critics of the march say that this is just an anti-Trump march. Do you think this is more than just an anti-Trump march?
Honestly, I didn't want to make any signs, any political signs about Trump. I don't give a fuck about him. I hope he doesn't get, re-elected. And as an immigrant, I have the right, and I actually vote, so it's great. But I made this, for me, it's more about women's rights. It's like we are important. Yeah. In the end, we give birth, and my uterus is part of your life too. So
It's interesting because do you think that women need to have uteruses to be a woman? So this is it's a trans question.
No, actually not. Actually not. And there are lots of women who had a hysterectomy, and they are still women, and they don't have uterus.
Yeah. I don't think that the question was really like, do you think men could trans?
Of course, of course. Yeah, I think if we are. I'm not against men at all. I think we need to just see each other equally.
Do you think men can become women, trans women? Yeah.
Very much. And I have a lot of friends who are trans, and they are women, and they are fantastic.
Do you think trans women have an advantage over biological women in sports or something like that? And should we have them play against each other in sports?
Yeah, we should.
You don't think there's a competitive advantage for trans women?
No, not at all. No, because once you become trans woman, you become a woman.
Yeah.
That's your choice.
If you're born a biological male, you are biologically more able than, you can run faster, you could jump higher, you're more generally athletic than women. And we're seeing a lot of trans women athletes outcompete women athletes. So you don't think that's a problem at all?
No, I actually come from a really competitive myself. I was a gymnast for 18 years, and I ran, and I outrun lots of men.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure you were the best woman, but you wouldn't outrun the best men.
But you never know. Look at Serena Williams. Yeah. She can definitely
Serena Williams can't beat even the top 70th tennis player though. So she's the number one female player, but she can't beat even anyone in the top 50 men's tennis players. So is that an issue?
I don't see. Again, we should think about each other equally. I don't think so. We should, how would you say? I don't know.
What is the difference between men and women in the modern day in 2020?
I don't see any difference. That's why I'm here to make it. At the moment, the difference is that we are not equally treated.
Yeah. So there's no difference between men and women?
No. I don't see any differences between men and women. That's why I'm searching and seeking equal treatment for women, because there is there are amazing women scientists, they are brilliant, and they get put into shadow just because they are not trusted. If you are female and entrepreneur and you go there to raise money, you are double checked. Look how many men, entrepreneurs, broke a law, raised lots of money.
A lot of women break laws too, though, and don't get in trouble.
No, but that's why we want to be, equally treated. Yes, if we break a law, we go to jail.
Absolutely. But I mean, if there's no difference between men and women, and trans women can become women, then why is it even a women's march? Why isn't it just a people's march? Because there's no difference.
I think at the moment we just want to put the word women on the map, and I think that next year or in 2 years can become people's. And I actually agree with you. It should be people's march for the rights to be seen equally.
Absolutely.
So we have equal rights, equal job rights, equal health care, equal voting, equal rights,
equal opportunity to change sex.
everything.
You know,
Exactly.
a woman could become a man now
Yeah,
too.
I
Okay.
know. If I want to be a man, and sometimes
Is
I
it
wish
dangerous?
I was.
Is it dangerous that we're making no distinctions between the sexes anymore?
I don't think so. It's dangerous. I think it's free. You know, I don't think so. It's dangerous. I think it's very healthy for young people to start thinking.
Do you think it's healthy?
About,
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think there's an
it's,
age that is too young for trans men or women to convert? So, like, is there an age where you say, hey, maybe it's too young, maybe you should grow up a little bit more before you make the decision to switch, change gender?
Yeah, but I think when you are born with ability to know your body best, more than more than anyone else and your family, I think you feel from a very early age your calling, yes, that you are not a man, even if you are born man, you want to be a woman, or you are a woman who wants to be a man.
But do we ever
Yes.
deal with reality? Like, let's say I'm a man,
Yes.
I'm born a man, have all the man parts, and I want to be a woman.
Yes.
Shouldn't somebody say, hey, I mean, that's fine, you could, like, pretend you're a woman, but you're not, like, are they actually women? Like,
They are actually women. I have friends who became women, and they're actually women, and they go out with me, and they get more guys than anyone else.
Do you think
and
trans?
I love
yeah.
it.
Do you think trans women should have to tell their partners that they're trans before they date?
I think they should.
Good,
I think they
interesting.
should. I think they should. I think as this is again comes to transparency, and I think if they decided, they should.
And your friends
Yes.
still do that, and they get more guys now,
Yes,
and all the
I
guys
know.
are still flocking
I
up.
know. And
Quick,
they're like, woohoo!
quickly in conclusion, anything else you wanted to mention?
No, I just love life, and I think we should celebrate life and celebrate people.
Thank you
know?
so much. I
Yes.
appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. I
Thank you so
appreciate it.
much.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit more about why you guys are out here, what it means for you guys to be out here?
Yeah, so I think being like a woman and like a minority, I think it's important to like share my voice because I have like definitely a lot more rights than people in other countries, and kind of like just good to support everyone.
Yeah. What do you think?
For me, it's kind of same, the intersectionality of being a female and also a minority. I am a Latina, and I'm currently also a woman in STEM, and I do, like, right now in which I'm getting into research and learning more about research. There's a lot of research that hasn't been done on women's bodies, and it's medications that we're taking, and it's medications that are affecting us, and we don't know the effects. Literally, there's a whole bunch of them, and some of them are also mentally and internally affecting also, like, our reproductive system, so that's definitely something I want to help with later in the future.
I forgot the name of the specific drug, but I recall there was one drug that they only tested on men, and then once women took it, they didn't take into account how women are different from men, like biologically, and how the drug affects them.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a real issue. I wanted to follow up with you guys and ask, do you think women and men have equal opportunity in the modern day United States?
I don't think so. I mean, with the pay gap, like maternity leave, like there's a lot of stuff still like suppressing women. Definitely, it's a lot better than like the past, but I believe we still have like a long way to go.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of agree on that. In class, I've learned that even as you get in higher positions, women have to break the glass ceiling. Men have a glass escalator, meaning that if like a male wants to enter a female workforce, he's basically handed everything on a platter. And if a female wants to like be in a higher position, she's usually spoken negatively about. And there's like so many other things that they have to break to be able to get to that position.
I know there are a lot of reasons for the pay gap that exists between men and women, but do you think women get equal pay for equal work? Because people say we do. One of the reasons that I know, one of the stats that I know is that women who never get married and never have kids either make the same as men or out-earn men. So do you think we should be encouraging women to maybe not get married and not have kids to close that pay gap, or what should we do here?
I definitely don't think we should encourage women not to get married. I believe, number one, that's like a choice. If you don't want to get married, don't. If you do, go for it, girl. But I believe that, like you shouldn't. Like employers shouldn't be like, oh, she wants to get married, so that means she's going to want to have a family. She's going to want to take time off. Therefore, she's like a disability to my company. So I feel like that's kind of why they get paid less. I think that's
There's like an
completely
experience gap, like women decide to step out of the field for a few years, raise kids, multiple kids. And one of the big issues with the pay gap is that they take time off, decide to become mothers. I think more or less women get paid for equal work nowadays. Do you guys feel like they don't?
I think it's like somewhat yes, somewhat no. I feel like you can have the same degree as a man, and they can just be like, no. I think also, though, a lot of times men will try and fight like, oh, you want to give me this much money, I think I should have more money than that. And a lot of times women take like the first offer.
Yeah.
So
we encourage women to be more aggressive and more.
Maybe not aggressive, but definitely like be like, oh, I know my stuff. Like, I believe I'm worth this much money. Like, oh, you want to be like this offer? I believe I'm worth more than that. Like, never take the first offer.
What do you think?
So basically negotiating is also a very big one, but I think we can do a lot more with maternal leave. When women are signed on to like salaries and stuff, they don't take under consideration that there is a possibility that there is going to be a family. I do see that there's more like stay-at-home dads, and that's what kind of is helping women, but there's a lot of things that, as you said, women are taking time off to be with their children because like, why not? Like, I want to, I want to be a doctor and also want to be a mom, and it's like, oh, I do know I have to take into consideration that I'm going to take time off, but something with when women are coming back from maternal leave, they aren't given the same amount of money or aren't able to get the same exact salary that they like.
Well, they don't have the same experience at that point, right? Because if they took maternity leave, that the doctors that stayed there.
I feel like they do, because at least like me, like further on, I do want to be an OBGYN. I feel like being a mom like wouldn't take away that like my already like know of how to do work and how to like be at work. Like right now I'm like, oh.
But the years of experience, it would be different, right? Like if you decide to leave for maternal leave for multiple years to take care of your child, you're gonna have less experience than a male OBGYN who never took maternity leave.
I believe you can still do like work even though if you're not at work.
Interesting.
You can still like learn like the internet, like just going out, like experience everything. Like you don't need to be like in the office to still have like more experience on someone.
A lot of political conversation around the Women's March and women in general has been around this trans issue. So I wanted to ask you guys, do you think trans women are the same as a woman who is assigned female at birth?
Yeah, of course, definitely. I mean, like personally, I feel like you should be able to be whoever you want to be, whether that's like you're assigned sex at birth. If you feel like you're a different person, like go for it. That doesn't personally affect me. They're not causing me any harm or stress. So like, but I mean, there's plenty of like space in this world for like anyone.
Is there a distinction between men and women?
No, there's actually a lot of overlap. In one of my women and gender studies classes, I learned that something that we've always been wanting to like perceive as humans is find a difference, but there's actually like a lot of the similarities between us. There isn't like a straight like, oh, this is different. It's the
isn't there genetics, the XX and XY chromosomes that clearly distinguish?
Yeah, there's genetics too, but there's also cases in which people are born with 3 X's, and our body's just able to shut off.
Those are genetic diseases,
yeah.
So
like there are genetic differences, but at the same time, I think everything that's been done, it's been like just like the difference that we see now, more societal, that like that's viewed now, is because it's been portrayed since like the years, and it's just like what's right in society, and it's like the way of doing gender.
Should trans women be allowed to compete against women who are assigned female at birth?
Are we talking about Olympics?
No, like in high school sports. So should trans women be able to compete against just the regular females that were assigned female at birth?
Yeah, I kind of agree. That's kind of bringing up, I do agree that they should be able to, because as I said,
Are you concerned that trans women have a competitive advantage over women who are assigned female at birth?
Actually, I don't think they do. This is something that I kind of like viewed within like the Olympics, is that with the Caster Semenya case, they were like, oh, she has like a higher testosterone level. We actually like viewed that testosterone isn't like a sex hormone. It's found in both.
But do you think men are more athletic naturally than women are?
No.
Men, I mean, biologically, men could run faster, jump higher, and all of those things. You don't think there would be a competitive advantage for a trans woman to compete against just a female who is assigned? No, not at all?
I think if like you want something hard enough, you're gonna work hard enough to it, and just because.
Don't you think that's a competitive disadvantage for the women, though? Like, is that modern-day feminism for a trans woman to compete against women even though they might have a competitive advantage?
I don't think so. I think feminism is just, like, equality for all, whether you're trans, whether you're, like, just born a woman. Like, I just think it's equality for all, and just if you're competitive, you're competitive. I just think it gives you, like, more of a drive to be like, oh, I just want to win. I want to, like, be number one. I want to get this medal. I think it just, like, gives you more of a drive.
But wouldn't it hinder women who are born women's ability to achieve great things as women? Because now it feels like we're fighting for the right for men to be women, and then they could dominate those fields. So it's just an interesting tidbit. Just quickly in conclusion, anything else you guys wanted to mention?
I don't think so, no.
No, we got all the topics.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Have a good one, guys. Enjoy the march. This one says, "This pussy grabs back."
Yes, sir.
Very bold. This sign says, "Boys will be boys," and held accountable, and that the boys is crossed off. Can you tell me a little bit more about what these signs mean?
Yeah, so I think women obviously aren't objects, and I don't want to be passive anymore. I don't want to sit down and let things happen and not do something about it. That's why I'm here. So, that's what it means, like, grabs back. And I think, like, men and women, but, men should be held accountable for things that they do, especially with what's going on now with, like, celebrities in Hollywood. It's just a mess. So.
I want to follow up with you on something political.
Sure.
Elizabeth Warren said that in a 2016 meeting with Bernie Sanders that he said that a woman can't be president. So, A, do you think Bernie Sanders said that? Do you think he's a sexist? And do you believe Elizabeth Warren there? And what's the deal with this, what's going on there?
I hadn't heard that until now, but, I don't want to believe that he said it. I think we should believe women. If Elizabeth Warren said that he said it, then of course, but I don't know. I think I'm kind of neutral. Yeah, it is tough. It's really hard. Things, people say things and they can be taken out of context all the time, and it's tough.
What do you think it means to be a woman in 2020? How do we define woman now in 2020?
I think I just want to be considered an equal. Feminism isn't about putting women above men. It's about being considered equal, being seen as equal, no stops, no fights that we shouldn't be here. We shouldn't have to be here. We shouldn't have to fight for equality. Yeah.
I want to ask you too, a lot of politics today around certain women's issues reaches into trans women. Mm-hmm. So do you believe that trans women are equivocally 100% equal to regular women?
Yes,
biologically
intersectional feminism is incredibly important.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I also want to follow up and ask you about the topic on sports. So do you think trans women should be able to compete against women, although they may have some competitive advantage? Do you recognize the competitive advantage that they have?
I guess, but I think they identify as women, they should be able to play women's sports.
Does it matter that they have a competitive advantage over women who are assigned female at birth?
I don't think so, no.
Absolutely. One last topic I wanted to talk to you about. Last year, Tamika, Mallory, and Sarsour were some of the organizers of the march here. They had to step down, though, based on some accusations of anti-Semitism. Are you concerned about them having some influence on the Women's March and having that stain of anti-Semitism here? Are they ousted? Does it not matter that they were ousted? How do you feel about those characters?
Considering the fact I didn't know their names till today, I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, cool. And I think, the march exists outside of those two women. I think, there's thousands of people here that, are each fighting for their own reasons. And, it's not based on what the organizers believe. Everyone's here for their own thing.
Absolutely. Quickly in conclusion, anything else you want to mention?
No, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. See, you have a sign over here. It says, "I'm a survivor. I'm not going to give up until the truth is heard." Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here? What is the truth?
Well, I feel like survivors aren't really respected or heard, so I'm just kind of marching for all the survivors out there. And then on this side, we have this beautiful flag that I painted. Took forever, but actually, if I could show my friend's poster, it's really great.
Yeah.
Mia.
Can we see your poster?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure.
Please. She does such a
So it
great
says
job.
"Stop slut shaming and victim blaming." And what's the other side say? So it's "Take away my birth control and I'll breed more feminists." That's really interesting. I wanted to ask you though, in 2020, what do you think it what does it mean to be a woman in our modern day 2020?
Oh, wow. That's a hard question. I think now, it's always. I don't know. Actually, I don't know how to answer that. Nia, I kind of want to ask her.
So, because I see her sign has a vagina on it, do you think this is inclusive to women without vaginas, and do you think there could be women without vaginas?
There could be women without vaginas, but this is a poster that represents me, and this is who I am, so this is why I made a poster with a vagina on it.
That's really cool. What do you think about the topic?
I think, I love this topic. I think it's really great, especially now when we just saw a video of like a bunch of powerful men in a room talking about our bodies and putting control over us, and you don't see that talking about male bodies. So I think it's a very important message. Yeah.
I want to ask you guys about some recent political news. Elizabeth Warren supposedly had a conversation with Bernie Sanders in 2016 where Bernie Sanders said a woman can't be president. What do you think about that? Do you believe Elizabeth Warren? Do you believe Bernie Sanders? Where do you stand on that?
Oh, that's hard. I think I love Bernie, so it's hard to say, and I believe every woman. Maybe there was some kind of interpretation. I'm not really sure about that, but I don't think I can't see Bernie actually saying something like that, but it's possible. Yeah. I never want to discredit what a woman says, but I think that's really just a political...
Yeah. Would that make Bernie Sanders a sexist?
It depends on the context. I'm not sure if he was trying to say like women can't be president, or that it's just really difficult for women to be respected and to be seen as a president. So yeah, it depends.
Do you think there's a problem with Elizabeth Warren playing it off as such, like implying that he's a sexist and like kind of using the left against him?
I think in any politician that there's a problem when you're interpreting in a certain way to make a point that may not have been the actual context, but Yeah, I really would just love to learn a little bit more about that. I'm not sure enough, but yeah.
I had one more question for you. Some of the critiques of the march have been that it's just an anti-Trump march. So is this just an anti-Trump march, or is it more than that?
For me, everything is an anti-Trump march. But no, I don't know. There's probably Trump supporters here as well. I mean, I think we're just here, we're marching for women. Me personally, I don't think Trump represents feminism or womanism, so it could be.
Is this inclusive to maybe like pro-Trump women, or even as far as like pro-life women? Would they be welcomed here?
Yeah, I think we all are fighting for different reasons. We have our own truths. I'm not pro. What do you call that? I am pro-choice, so I don't know.
But are pro-life women welcome here?
I would think so. I think it'd be good for us, for people to have conversations. We need to be able to kind of debate with each other and not have so much hate. You know, I just feel like that's so easy, especially now, to just have hateful conversations. Yeah. So.
Just since it's in my face, I had one more question. That and on the general trans issue, many people are concerned about having trans women in sports competing against women. Do you think that's an issue that we should deal with? Should trans women be able to compete against women in sports? And do you think there's an unfair advantage that trans women may have over biological women?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a lot of hate. It's very hateful to. I think there's just a lot of misunderstanding. Trans women are women, and we need to understand that and not be so hateful when you see that. So yeah, of course, they're women. So.
Do you think they have a competitive advantage over women, people who were born women or assigned women at birth? I think is the.
No, I mean, I think if anything, they've been dealt with so much aggression and hate. I think it probably a lot of anxiety behind that, just trying to be themselves and be free, and so I don't think so.
If biology showed that there was a competitive advantage for these trans women, do you think it would make sense to split them up? Because biology does kind of show that women who went through some form of male puberty, are a little bit more physical. Like men are more athletic than women just generally, and that kind of follows that trend. So you don't see any issue, even though trans women do have a competitive advantage over just women assigned birth or the assigned birth of women? Cool.
I don't think so. I think that's the same argument if we're gonna, put sports with men and women together. I think that they might have.
Do you think we should have sports with men and women together?
Oh yeah, watch. We're gonna beat their asses.
Well, wouldn't that stomp out women? Because then, men would be better at women in most sports, probably just not gymnastics.
I'm not sure. I really, honestly, I would like to see it. Before we say that that's gonna be.
Like for soccer, men are definitely a lot more athletic and better at soccer. And basketball, they're definitely a lot more athletic. And like track and field, that is the case for that as well. So
maybe, but wouldn't say definitely. I don't know.
I guess we'll have to find out.
We'll have to find out.
Quickly in conclusion, was there anything else you wanted to mention?
No, I think we had a lot of really good conversations.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Hey everybody, thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode. Let me know what you thought of the episode down in the comments. Your first time here, guys, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Till next time, stay barely informed.